Alfie, Alfie. Oh, hi boys and girls. I don't know where Alfie's gone. He's taken a walk somewhere and I don't know where he is. Oh, hang on, I can see him. What are you doing over here? There we are. Ah, didn't you hear me? You were having fun, were you? Ah, I've been calling you and I was wondering where you were. I need to shout louder. Okay, next time I will. Anyway, how are you doing? You're good. Oh, I'm so glad. You've been enjoying the sunshine. I know it's been quite nice for a couple of days, but it's raining again today. But still, got to make the most of the good weather when it comes, haven't we? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Sometimes things go good and sometimes things go bad. And sometimes when things are going bad, you just got to think tomorrow might be better. Tomorrow it might be sunny. As it says in the Annie song, the sun will come out tomorrow. You think it is going to? Oh, good. I'm so glad. Perhaps we can go out for a walk, can't we? Yeah. Anyway, I think it's time for today's story. Yeah, okay. I'll tell you today's story if you listen nice and quietly. We got a story today which actually is a little bit like what just happened with Alfie. Somebody was calling and the person wasn't listening, or they thought it was somebody else. Let's start the story. You see what I mean as we go along. It happened a long, long time ago, back in the days of what we call the Old Testament. And there lived a man called Elkanah. It's a very funny name, isn't it? And he had two wives. One, her name was Hannah, and the other, her name was Peninnah. Are we going to have lots of funny names today? No, that's the last one. Now, Peninnah was quite happy because she had what she really wanted. She had a family. She had lots and lots of boys and girls. But Hannah was sad because she didn't have a family. She had no children of her own. And she'd see Peninnah's children running round and having fun, and she'd feel really sad. And she'd say to her husband, all I really want is a little baby. But it never happened. Well, one day, all the family were going down to worship God at the place where people went to worship. And they had a great big party while they were there. Now, Elkanah, he loved Hannah and he didn't like to see her sad, and he used to do anything he could to cheer her up. He'd give her the extra special food at the party, but Hannah was so sad she just couldn't eat. So she went out and she went into the place where people go to worship God, a bit like our churches today. What was it called? It was called a tabernacle. And she went in there. And she was really, really sad. And while she was in there, she prayed to God. Now, you know, Alfie, when you pray to God, you don't have to talk. You can just think the prayer. And that's what Hannah was doing. Her lips were moving, but she wasn't saying anything. Now, the priest who was there, his name was Eli. And he saw Hannah and her lips were moving, but she wasn't saying anything. She was probably going a bit like that. I looked funny, did I? Well, that's what Eli thought. And he thought that this woman had been into the party, had a little bit too much to drink, and she was drunk. And he got quite annoyed, and he went over and he said, how dare you come in here when you're drunk? And she turned round to him and said, oh, sir, I'm not drunk. I'm just very, very sad. And I've been praying to God for something I really, really want. Well, Eli, he felt a little bit ashamed. And he said, oh, well, go home and may God give you what you asked for. Now, what do you think Hannah was asking God for? Correct, a little baby. She said, if you'll give me a little baby, I will give him back to you to be your servant all his life. I won't keep him for myself. I'll give him back. Wasn't that an amazing thing to do? Yeah. But you know, amazingly, that's what happened. God gave Hannah her little baby. A year later, she had a little boy. And she called his name, can you guess his name? His name was Samuel, which means asked of God. I asked God for him and he gave me Samuel. Well, little Samuel, he was a delight to Hannah, and she watched him as he started to grow up. And when he was still quite a little boy, probably 5-year-old, that's not very old, is it? That's the age of the very small children in school, yeah. She took him down to Eli and said, look, do you remember I was praying in the tabernacle years ago, and I asked God for this little boy, and God gave him to me, and I promised God that I would give him back to God to be his servant. So I'm going to leave him here with you, and he will do whatever you tell him. And she went away and left Samuel there. Do you think she felt sad? But she kept her promise, that's right. And Samuel grew up with Eli the priest. He became a sort of servant, and he always did what he was told. Of course, Hannah never forgot him. She went to see him regularly and took him clothes to wear, and as he grew up she made new clothes for him. But you know, God remembered Hannah and was glad that she kept her promise, and he gave her more children, but she never forgot Samuel. Samuel grew up, and as he grew up, he really became a very trustworthy person, until one night Samuel was fast asleep. Everywhere was quiet. The place was dark, when suddenly Samuel heard a voice shouting, "Samuel, Samuel." He thought, it must be Eli. Perhaps he's not well. And he ran to Eli. He said, "What do you want?" He said, "I don't want anything. I was fast asleep. Go back to bed." So Samuel went back and he put his head on the pillow, and he heard the voice again, "Samuel, Samuel." He thought, there's nobody else here. It must be Eli. He ran to Eli. He said, "You called me. You really did. I heard you." "No, I didn't," said Eli. "Go back to bed." Samuel felt very puzzled. He went back and he lay down to sleep again, and he heard the voice again, "Samuel, Samuel." He thought, "Oh, it must be Eli." He ran to Eli. "What do you want? You did call me." And then Eli realized it was God calling Samuel. He said, "Go and lie down. If you hear the voice again, say, 'Speak, Lord, I'm listening.'" And Samuel went and he lay down, and the fourth time the voice came, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel sat up and said, "Speak, I'm listening." "That's right, well done." He left a word out. He didn't say Lord. He didn't know who was talking to him. But God spoke to Samuel and told him of all that he was going to do, about how Eli and his sons weren't being good servants, they weren't being good priests, and God was going to punish them, and that Samuel was going to become priest one day instead. And you know, that's what happened. Years later, Samuel became the priest, and he was a good man. Perhaps next week we'll have another part of the story of Samuel and some of the things that Samuel did. But for now, we're going to leave it there. What have you got from today's story? Listen when somebody's calling, yeah. And to keep your promises, that's a great one to remember. Hannah kept her promise, and Samuel, he did listen. Thanks for listening, boys and girls. Have a great day. See you again soon. Bye for now.